Hello, everyone. Sorry I cannot be with you in person, but I'm very happy to be there anyways. We're still talking about whales, and I know a whale biologist in a lobster symposium sounds like someone mixed up the species list. But don't worry, I double-checked, and both of them lived in saltwater, so we're good. I'd like to thank my co-authors. They are academics, but also, and most importantly, the harvesters of southern Gaspésie, who I've been working on this with us since the past 6 years, and here represented by Jean Côté on this presentation. So here's the situation we're facing. The North Atlantic right whale population has dropped to barely 370 animals today. That's half what it was 20 years ago. Every death matters now, and most of those deaths are caused by us, humans, through ship strikes and entanglement in fishing gear. That's why coexistence isn't a concept, it's a necessity in that case. As the Gulf of St. Lawrence warms up, the plankton buffet is moving. The calanus, the tiny red copepod that right whales depend on, are no longer where they used to be. And when dinner moves, the whales follow. Simple ecology, but messy consequences. Around 2015, right whales started to show up in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, a place they'd barely visited before. They weren't tourists, they were following their food north. It was the marine version of a population shift, unplanned, unstoppable, and right into the fishing zone of many harvesters. Now we're seeing a full habitat reset. Young whales learn these new routes from their mother, so they begin as a short detour is quickly becoming the new normal. In other words, the next generation of right whales is growing up in the Gulf. So here's the real challenge. Whales need space to feed, and fishers need space to work. The problem isn't bad intention, it's overlap. And coexistence starts when we stop guessing where that overlap actually is. Then came 2017, 12 deaths of whales, headlines everywhere, emergency closure overnight. 12 of these dead right whales were seen in Canadian waters. The Gulf went from quiet fishing grounds to a breaking news zone, and it was kind of the chaos and a wake-up call for the coastal communities. When the whales disappeared, the fishing season vanished with them. Boats stayed at the docks, traps stayed on land, and frustration filled the gap. Conservation without context, it hurts communities directly. So we ask the obvious question, are right whales even here on coastal fishing grounds? Before changing policies, let's check the facts, because decisions made on assumptions can do more damage than the whales ever did. So before diving in the data, here's how it was collected. This wasn't a classic scientist drop-by project. It was built with the harvesters. They helped us design the transects, pick up safe routes, and shared their reading of the sea. We learned from each other, and that was a fisher-led detection program, and it was really important that it was done this way. So we didn't study fishermen, we studied with them. Our study area covers the southern Gaspé lobster fishing grounds from Saint-Georges-de-la-Malbaie to Port Daniel-Gascon, in waters ranging from 0 to 37 meters deep. This is what you see in white on the map, which is the zone of significant risk of entanglement in fishing gear during the lobster fishing season in Quebec. The main goal of the research project was to characterize the presence of North Atlantic right whales in this coastal area and to study the cetacean community using the same area. In other words, the project aimed to answer the question, who uses the lobster fishing area and the area near the coast, when, why, and where? To answer these questions, we used two complementary approaches, visual surveys and passive acoustic monitoring. First, the visual surveys, they were conducted from both transects in the lobster fishing area since 2019, during and after the lobster fishing season, and it allowed us to identify species, count individual, and record behaviors. Over 6 years, this provided a robust picture of cetacean presence in the area of highest entanglement risk. During this period, we recorded 541 sightings, 99% identified to species, and cetacean were seen on 88% of the survey days, showing that they are really common in these waters. 4 piscivorous species of whales were observed. The most frequent were the minke whales and harbor porpoises, both very coastal, while humpback whales and fin whales represented less than 10% of the sightings. North Atlantic right whales were observed between 2019 and 2024 in this particular lobster fishing area in southern Gaspésie. No Atlantic right whales were observed, sorry. So now that we know who's out there, the next question is simple. Why are they here and what are they doing? Are these whales just passing through, or they are actually feeding in the same zone as the lobster gear? That's what we wanted to figure out. Most of the whales we observed, the minkies, the humpback, and the others, were seen both moving, suggesting they travel between feeding area and inside and outside the lobster fishing area, and actively feeding, sometimes in interspecific groups with fin whales. These results confirm that the southern Gaspé lobster fishing grounds are an important coastal habitat, notably for humpback whales during the peak feeding season. Piscivorous whales use this coastal habitat dynamically and opportunistically, depending on the prey abundance and the availability. And between 2019 and 2024, we didn't see a single right whale in the lobster fishing zone. And that actually makes sense when you look at what's on the menu there. The whales we do see feed on small fish like mackerel, capelin, herring, but the right whales eat almost only one thing, a tiny plankton called calanus. It's like comparing steak eaters with smoothie drinkers. They don't stop at the same grocery stores, basically. In that area, there simply wasn't enough calanus to attract them. Still, because that plankton can move around with currents and temperature, we keep monitoring, just in case the buffet shift closer to shore in the upcoming years. So these results were just published a few days ago in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, and the best part is that the harvesters are co-authors of that. It's not every day that fishermen sign a scientific paper, and we're pretty proud of this. The second part of the project used passive acoustic monitoring to characterize the minimum acoustic presence of right whales, whose vocalizations are very recognizable. We deployed hydrophones in 2 strategic sites corresponding to the main cetacean observation areas that you can see here in yellow. The first campaign in June included only Station 1 in the north, in Saint-Georges-de-la-Malbaie. And the second, in August and September, included both Station 1 and Station 2, located off Caps d'Espoir on the Lander Shoal. Recording ran continuously in June, August, and September, providing over 3 months of 24-hour data of right whale and other acoustic data. When we analyzed the acoustic data, we used AI models, then double-checked everything by hand to make sure it made sense. We focused on the right whale's up calls, which is a short rising sound that's really easy to recognize, but no call doesn't mean no whales. Nothing there's, sometimes they are just quiet, or the noise hide their calls. For white whales, we recorded a very low minimal acoustic presence along the southern Gaspé coast, which with detections of only 24 to 33% of the day, each day including at least one upcall. And this pattern reflects the 2 waves of right whales arrivals in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. A first wave in late May, early June, concentrated in the southwest, explaining and the second wave a little later. So at Station 1, the north detection or acoustic activity peaked in August during the second campaign, while the Station 2 recorded few calls. This likely reflects whale transiting between the main feeding grounds from the southwest Gulf of St. Lawrence to northwest of Anticosti Island, with Station 1 being closer to the potential migratory corridor. And by September, detections were very low, indicating that the whales are probably settled there for their feeding zones. And overall, the Gaspé Peninsula, where the fishing is happening, appears to mainly be used as a migratory corridor, with only brief coastal passages in August outside the lobster fishing season. So when we looked at the calls over 24 hours, a pattern appeared. The whales were most vocal at the end of the day. During daylight, they were likely feeding and quiet. By dusk, when things calm down, they start calling more, kind of like the ocean evening chatter for them. At Station 1, during the season campaign in August, that trend became really clear. Most of the calls happened around dusk, right when the day's feeding likely ended. It's a small but telling clue. Even when we don't see the whales, we can still tell what they're up to. Involving harvesters in the science made all the difference. Their knowledge wasn't anecdotal, it was data. They knew where the current twists, where the trap really sits, and even when the water turns milky, which is a local sign of Calanus blooms. That insight guided our hydrophones, our timing, and our risk map. It's a great reminder that local expertise doesn't replace science, it sharpens it. Working with harvester isn't just outreach, it's real science. And the results we have shown today aren't small side projects, they are published work. One paper just came out in the Canadian Journal of Zoology, and another one for the acoustic part of our data is on the way. And even another snow crab study co-authored by Dunia, which is there with you, and myself and partner from the fishing industry, is accepted for publication in the Journal of Cetacean Research and Management, following the same approach of collaborating with harvesters. So this is science done in situ with the people who live and work on the water. So in conclusion, the southern Gaspé lobster fishing area is used by 4 piscivorous cetaceans, which use it dynamically and opportunistically depending on the prey availability. No North Atlantic right whales were observed visually, and acoustic detections were very rare, mainly in August after the fishing season, suggesting that this area is a transiting migratory corridor outside the lobster fishing season, between their main feeding habitats, such as the Shediac Valley and northwest of Anticosti Island. Currently, there is no overlap with lobster fishing season, but we must remain vigilant as this could change with the future and the climate change. So yes, we generated data, but data alone doesn't save the whales. People do. And this project shows how coexistence happens on the water every day with the man and woman who knows the sea better than anyone. So what do we take away from this 6 years of collaboration? That coexistence isn't a dream, it's a management model. The evidence gathered here led directly to a new 2025 closure protocol that finally recognizes coastal fisheries as partner, not suspects. It's adaptive, science-based, and replicable for other fisheries and other coasts, because coexistence isn't about stopping fishing, it's about smart fishing. And ultimately, right whales don't need enemies, they need allies at sea. And in southern Gaspésie, they already have them. Thank you for your attention.